unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. If you're looking at this, you can see a cassette tape that is a different color than usual. If you're listening to this, you have to imagine a cassette tape that is a different color. It is rather than the regular gray clear, it is gold. And that means that today I am going to have a conversation with somebody that I know. His name is Delachaux. Or Delachaux. Delachaux? Delachaux. It's French looking. I don't even know if it's real, and I didn't even ask him. I've already had the conversation with him. I'm just doing a little intro because I realized I didn't say how I know him. He hired me years ago to make promo photos of him, and we did a number of them with tiki things and girls, his wife. He's an interesting fella. In fact, some of the pictures that he paid me to make, we ended up doing some company in Denmark purchased to use in their corporate brochures. And so I gave him another photo shoot. We did another one with some stripper, a dancer. We made antlers out of his head, or antlers of her legs onto his head, and surrounded him with absinthe. Fun little pictures that reminded me a little bit of Hunter S. Thompson. But he's been a guy who's been on the scene, you should say, a certain scene in San Francisco. So he knows the social life here and the party scene, and our scenes overlapped quite a bit. And he's one of the few people who now has the audacity to, maybe crack a few eggs, maybe challenge the really hardcore lefty pressure that's here. So he's getting himself into a little bit of trouble. Not as much as me, but enough, and more than most. And so I'm interested to talk to him about that. And we talked about it. We went to Golden Gate Park. We parked at the north end of the southwest corner of the polo field, and we had a nice conversation in my van with a glass of wine. It was nice. And I hope you enjoy this nice conversation with Aaron Delachaux. Aaron Delachaux, right?
That's correct.
Is
Aloha.
that how you say your name?
Yeah, Aaron Delachaux. Yeah.
Did you say aloha?
Yeah.
Are you Hawaiian?
I'm kind of like your dad. I've been there enough to where I feel like I've taken it upon myself to it's kind of not just Hawaiian. I call it kind of like deadbeat dad Hawaiian, where you're like,
wait a minute, that's getting personal.
Well, not really. I mean, I don't really.
My dad is a deadbeat dad Hawaiian.
Oh, we'll see. I've touched a nerve.
He's not. He's never been.
No.
Dad,
no, I just meant somebody talked about it as an aesthetic, as like where you wear the Hawaiian shirts and you're kind of like in the sports car having the midlife crisis, but it's got some dings and you got a cigarette hanging on your mouth and you passed out and you've missed a bunch of your alimony support. It's kind of a whole look, and I've in September.
You're embracing it.
I'm totally embracing it.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing you don't realize when you're young is that all these old guys that you kind of make fun of are doing it for real.
Yeah.
You think that they're still going on your measurement of things. You think they still have your values and aren't hitting the mark.
So you mean there are lots of deadbeat dads out there that are authentic?
No. Well, for example, you know how when you're young you think, oh, I'm never going to be like that when I get old.
Oh, I see.
I will never be like, I'm going to go dancing every night for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm never going to change. I'm always going to be young. And then all of a sudden you're 52 and you go, I'm not interested in any of that shit anymore.
So that happened to me about exactly 2 years ago. I hit that wall.
How old are you?
I'm 47 now.
47,
so
okay.
45. I guess I was a bit early. I thought it was late.
Think you hit it about when I hit it.
I thought it was late.
It was about 45, 46 when I hit it too.
And all of a sudden, the whole dream, the whole Xanadu just dissipated into thin air, and I was like, what the hell have I been doing for the last 20 years? I don't regret a lot of stuff, I mean, it's like anyone else, but you kind of, I don't know what it is. Is there something really authentic about that midlife review where you think about, what you've been up to, and not necessarily that you look on it with regret, but you're just kind of done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's natural. It's not a big...
That's what I keep telling myself.
Well, I mean, no, it just, like, you just go, well, maybe there might be a little bit of panic for a second. You might go, God, I'm not interested in going to the parties anymore. I'm not interested in doing this. I'm not interested in doing that. Is that a problem? And then you realize, no, it's not a problem. I'm changing.
Yeah.
I'm growing up. I'm not a kid anymore.
Totally. I mean, I still, I love to be social. I still like to go out and do things with people I know and everything. But in terms of, well, let me preface it. So I was a DJ for many years. And so going out and with the mindset of, I'm going to rock a dance floor, or I'm going to, create and buttress this wonderful party, and just feeling emphatically like sincere about that or earnest about it, that part kind of dissipated on me. I got to a point where I was like, it was really like one night almost. It just kind of went poof, and I was like, just doesn't seem to hold the whole, I don't know, the mythology or something. It's kind of like when you go to Disneyland that one year and you're old enough to where you start looking behind the rides and seeing all the cabling and everything, and you're like, it's no more about the complete projected magic and mystery. All of a sudden it's about extension cords.
Yeah.
Dusty equipment.
I've always been like that, though. That's the interesting thing, is I've always been mostly interested in gear. Like even when I was a kid, because I bought my first keyboard when I was 15.
Yeah.
My first multi-track recorder when I was 16.
Yeah.
And so I've always been interested in people's gear. So I've always liked smaller shows better than big shows, because I could see what gear people were using.
You're a gearhead.
Kind of. Well, I am a little bit.
Well, I think gearhead actually is more for automotive, I think, in terms of vernacular. But anyway.
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I mean, I'm not in the sense that I think, oh, I must have that equipment to do this. I get in trouble because I'm mostly telling people, fuck it, just do it with your iPhone. You've got everything you need in your pocket.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like an evangelist against all the big gear, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in it.
Well, you're still using the gear to promulgate some big quote-unquote dream, whether it's music or, some sort of art form that is kind of beyond the gear.
Yeah.
And that's important. You want to keep that.
But also just gear is great in that somebody made it. I'm often fascinated by my gear. Like a mixer, all the knobs, and I think somebody put all those together. Like if you look at a traditional like 24, 48 track mixer, it's an amazing thing with all those knobs and all those little buttons and all those
Most
little
definitely.
lights. And I just think, we always celebrate the artists and the musicians and.
But what about the gear?
But what about the gear? Literally, the people that are putting those little knobs on and designing it. And then when you open it up and you got all those billions of little wires, it looks like a whole city scene in there.
Well, nowadays we can't do that because everything's been reduced to zeros and ones. In the old days, with the more linear. What do you call it? The old boards and everything. Analog boards that used to record and everything. I just was reading today, Joe Walsh of the Eagles. He said if we would have had Pro Tools when we were recording.
Did you just call it Bro Tools?
Pro Tools.
I think you called it Bro Tools.
We're
gonna have to do a rewind.
Anyways, so Joe Walsh and Bro Tools.
Yeah.
And he says if we had Pro Tools when we were recording Hotel California, we would still be recording Hotel California
Absolutely.
right now.
Yep. Yeah. You know what, though? I'm. Why would I want to argue with Joe Walsh about that? But I mean, at the same time, there is a thing that Pro Tools allows for more second guessing. Even like a word processor provides for much more second guessing. So I don't know if this is good or bad. I'm not going to make a judgment. But when you can copy paste a paragraph and move it around, you're not going to get that same stream of conscious type thing because the ability to move it around more.
Yeah.
The options are so
the fluidity
tempting.
of manipulation.
You know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
temptation to move things around is almost irresistible.
Yeah.
So who knows?
It's too irresistible is the problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so Joe Walsh, very well, I mean, I'm sure he thinks he's telling the truth, but in reality, he might have been there and somebody in the room might have gone, you know what would have been cool is if we chop this and put it over here and move this around, and then you get... You never know what would have happened.
Well, you record stuff. I mean, do you get bogged down? I know myself and everyone I know that produces music has a million, squillion projects on the half burner where they're kind of like second guessing, like, tweaking, what we call it.
Turd polishing is what I call it.
Yeah, turd polishing, basically. And at some point, you just have to cut and run and be like, this is what it is, and it's on authentic form, and I'm going with it. And I might feel a little bit, like... I might have my misgivings because it could always be ameliorated or rectified or something, but you just have to throw the towel in. That's really hard I've found, producing music, making music.
To know when it's finished.
To know where the finish line is, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend John about this the other day, and his thing was deadlines. Deadlines
They're
is how
good.
it's determined.
Yeah.
Because when the deadline comes... Oh, we got a neighbor over here calling Dum Dum, and it's making her squeal with delight. But no, like even with this stupid little podcast, I'm realizing, because my dad was my first guest, right? My dad's 83.
I need to listen to that one. I haven't heard it.
I haven't released it yet because I recorded him in 3 sessions, right? And I was using different technology, so it's still not out. Why? Because I got to edit it together. So
because of lots of bumps and grinds in the consistency,
just because he was uncomfortable sitting in a certain place. We started at a park, and then when I did a thing, I wanted to ask him more questions, and I just had 3 different sections I needed to edit together, and I was using 2 different separate iPhones. So in other words, I'm not going to do any editing on this.
No, I don't mind.
And it's going to go out tomorrow.
What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you regret.
I like that. And, I think we can see with podcasts and people in these long-form conversations, I think there is, I don't know if it's just a reaction to been having a diet of edited things for the last 4 decades.
Over-engineered, polished turds.
Absolutely. And we became so accustomed to it, and we keep raising the bar on it. Like, even on YouTube, you'll see these guys with their fast edits. They're very quick edits.
Oh, yeah.
Where they'll edit out all the pauses in between and everything to get it all in there in 3 minutes.
Well, it's kind of the sexy new flavor of the day, too, to just really have everything completely, just honed in.
And I have to admit it, I kind of like it in a way, especially when I'm in a soundbitey kind of environment where I want a lot of information fast.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I really like listening to an actual conversation between people linearly.
Organic tempo.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pauses, thoughts. I don't need there to be every single edit in there. And I think that's kind of I think there is, maybe we always wanted those. Did people always want these long philosophical conversations and they just couldn't get them because the media was convinced it wouldn't be a market?
I think so. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, basically, we've been talking and sitting in parks like we're doing right now. We're in Golden Gate Park, by the way, for all the way back to Socrates, right? So we've been sitting out and holding plants and looking at flowers and going, what the hell is going on? What's the meaning of all this? We're spinning around on I want to say a polished turd, but that would be very non-environmental of me. A third stone from the sun. And what is the meaning of all this? And so I think it's very normal and very primal, kind of like looking at a fire. You know how when you go camping and there's something hypnotic about the flames, you look at it and it has this timeless kind of infinite appeal. I think in the end, talking and sitting around, quote unquote philosophizing, it serves the same purpose for people.
Well, also, but the other part is just listening to somebody else talk where you don't even have to chime in. I get a little frustrated when I listen to podcasts sometimes because I will start yelling into
You're yelling at the guest?
Yelling at you idiot! I wish I was there so I could correct that motherfucker. It doesn't happen. Rarely does it happen, but some guests you just want to go, no, you fucking liar, or Yeah. When I hear somebody blatantly lying or misleading or getting something wrong, I want to jump in there.
Well, I guess that's what the comments are for, but be careful out there.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, my Lord. Yeah. It seems like every time. I'm learning finally to not. I'm literally learning.
We all are. We all are.
Part of this podcast, the rise of this podcast, was me getting sick of typing with my thumbs on other people's walls, comments that I thought they needed to hear, opinions that they needed of mine.
Yeah.
But then what happens if they get frustrated? They delete the whole thing. And all your work is gone. If they delete that thread, it's gone. And I'm like, how dare you delete my work? Delete your own, but don't delete mine.
Well, someday, hypothetically, Zuckerberg could delete all of our work, I mean, then just launch it out into the universe, and we're all just kind of like, were we even alive the past 20 years?
I'm telling you, I think that's a real danger. I mean, really think about it. I think this is a generation, I'm including our generation, all the way down to Gen Z.
You're a Gen Xer.
Gen X.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think you are too. I think I might be at the
They say
top end of Gen X.
I think the official is 60, born in 62 to 75. I don't know where they came up with that.
Who knows?
That time frame seems kind of maybe
so what's
arbitrary,
75 to what's past 75?
Those are Gen Y.
They're Gen Y, and then Millennials. And then Gen Z is the one that's coming up.
See, now you're ahead of me. You're over your skis on that one.
Your kids are Gen Z.
They're Gen Z?
Yeah, they're calling them Gen Z. And I have much great hope for Gen Z. I think they're going to really do some amazing shit.
I think that every generation is, in a way, forms its, at least I don't want to get too sociocultural, but at least in Western culture, every generation has this pang where they have to rebel against what's been made before them.
Yep.
And beautiful things come from that, and sometimes there's some dead ends and some cul-de-sacs too, but mostly it's a good thing,
If good or bad, it definitely seems to be the natural way that things organize.
And I think you're probably right. My own kids are way too young, but I do think there are really young people coming up that seem to be kind of flaunting against a lot of what I consider millennials, and a lot of the things that are going on with millennials, and a lot of the things that their paradigm of the world, let's say. And I see that with like teenagers. I've got some nieces and nephews and stuff, and it's amazing to listen to them. You thought, or I would have, thought that they would be part of this millennial thing, and they're not. They're clearly not, and they actually kind of hold some of these millennial, let's say, theoretical components about society in jest and don't believe them and are rebelling against them. And it's refreshing.
I don't know if you've seen, I've linked to this young girl, this 14-year-old girl named Soph.
Yeah.
Very controversial.
Yeah, I know Soph.
But I dug deeper into that, and I started figuring out who her little
Perfect
social
example,
group was.
by the way.
Yeah. Absolutely, I feel like she's smarter and more well thought out than I am now, and I'm 52, And I started digging in, and you start looking. Well, these kids have all the information at their fingertips, all of it.
True.
You can't pull a fast one on them. You could fool us because the information wasn't there.
Yeah.
Now, though, if you talk shit about somebody, like even back in the day, Elvis Presley's bad. What do all the kids like? Elvis Presley. You forbid something, and immediately everybody goes towards that. It's what kids do. But now, with this culture now, you're forbidden, these kids immediately go.
Yeah.
So if you lie about somebody and you say, that person's a Nazi, they'll go look. They'll read about Nazism. They'll read about this person. They'll actually look it up, and they'll go, well, you lied to me.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're more seemingly cynical. I'm part of the generation that falls for clickbait, basically.
Yeah.
And it even still works on me. I mean, I've had my own evolution.
I think they recognize it. I think the Gen Z know it immediately.
And they're like, what are you talking about? This is just some article by some little constabulary that's a couple people sitting around in a Manhattan hotel, and now they've got a media industry, and you're really kind of buy into their opinion about the world. Forget it. Whereas I'm like kind of emotional, hard on a string, Gen Xer who's still grappling with all this mass media content coming at me, on social media and everything, and I fall for it, hook, line, and sinker a lot of times. The emotionality, the hyperbolic histrionics of it, I mean, we've all learned to curtail it and be like, whoa, let's check.
I'm better at it now. I'm better at it now. Now when
We've all gotten better.
I can recognize the clickbait, and also I know just the basic ways to deal with it is like when you click on an article, I always scroll to the bottom and read from the bottom up, because anything important in the article is usually the last paragraph. So you read the last paragraph and then move your way back up, because they people are still getting paid by the word, so they want you to scroll past all their ads, so they put a lot of nonsense in there to keep you scrolling down, because they get paid by the scroll. Each time an ad actually comes up in that scroll, they get a couple pennies for it or whatever.
Well, here's a question for you on that topic. Do you think that this is a fad that is dissipating or mutating, or is this just kind of the wave of content and information going forward for all generations?
I think there's a fatigue, and that's what talking about Gen Z. They're turning away from it.
Yeah.
So we might not, millennials might not. We might be addicted to it hopelessly, But the younger ones know.
We're totally addicted to it hopelessly.
But the younger ones know. Like, for example, I was talking to my friend who has a kid, and who's a shy kid, and he doesn't get out much. But I went over to his house, and I saw this kid with his headphones on and a microphone, and he's playing video games with people all over the world.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And they're talking.
Yeah.
So this whole thing where we lament, we used to get on our bikes and go cruising around. And these kids now, they can't do it anymore, but they've figured a way around it. They're doing that all with their video games, and there's no parental supervision there.
They're building forts in the ether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out, and that's where they're not on Facebook. They're not on MySpace. They're not anywhere where they can be supervised. They're in these little rooms playing games with their friends, and then maybe little tiny discus rooms, or discuss, or however you call it, little chat rooms that we don't know about.
Well, I have to trust them.
Well, that's where they're figuring out that the media is lying to them, because they have these young, great brains that are curious and rebellious.
Yeah.
So if you put shit information in front of them, they're already inclined to reject it anyway.
Yeah.
They just want to reject it. They're programmed to reject it. So if you give them any reason to, if you literally lie about something, they're going to find it out.
That's refreshing.
They're a click away.
I'm stuck all my friends we're throwing, ridiculous headlines at each other all day long on social media and freaking out about it, generated outrage, all that crap. And, you have to pull back, and you have to kind of pull in the reins and go like, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? Half of the stuff, more than half of it, is apocryphal. It's confabulated bullshit, and we're all getting in fights and polarizing each other, and I don't know, call out culture and all that crap.
Yeah, I think. Well, okay, so let's get into this. Where were you born?
San Diego.
Okay, so you're not from San Francisco.
No.
How long have you lived in the Bay Area?
Since January of 1996.
Oh, so a long time.
Yeah, it's home now.
Yeah. I've lived here since I bought my house in '97, so we're almost tied
Parallel,
for that. Yeah, not too long. A long time though. Long enough for you to see
substantial.
The different. What do you gauge? Has there been a big drastic change in San Francisco, or not?
Well, what do you mean, like anthropologically, or just
what's your version of the change?
Well,
okay, for example, I
is...
gave you shit for lamenting Trader Sam's on Facebook. I started to give you shit, and you saw right through it.
Well, I knew where you're going. Yeah.
No,
and I don't, and that's not to say that you have a valid point. I know what you were talking about, and I've seen that argument before, and I think
their clientele have stopped coming.
In that,
yeah.
So
their business model doesn't sustain itself.
Yeah.
So they have to change because guys like us aren't going there anymore.
Exactly. So I've seen all those changes. I mean, there's no underabundance of.
There is a big black dog that's trying to get into my van right now. That's part of doing podcasts at the park. Is sometimes
you got to deal with nature.
Sometimes a big dog.
It's a jungle out there.
Just stick their face right into the van.
There's been so many changes. I mean, obviously, everyone, there's no, like I was going to say, there's no underabundance of all the socioeconomic changes that have happened in San Francisco, and we've had, these booms and these tech roller coaster rides of money and different things that's done to different sectors of society, be it gentrification, different things like that. So I've seen all that. Do you mean like in terms of specifically Trader Sam tiki culture?
I think you use socioeconomic in a sentence, and that proves that you got the whole thing down. You're smart. That was an intelligent answer. You said socioeconomic change.
Well, I've been able to stay away from it because in terms of like renting, I was out there initially in my first decade of my stay in San Francisco, out there renting places and moving every year. Basically, lived in the Mission, lived in the Haight, Lower Haight, all over the place. But back then, it was, you could do that, and I had really like shit jobs. I got out of college, didn't know what to do with my life, had a degree. I don't like to admit this too much, but there is a piece of me that's kind of proud of it in a way. Had a degree in philosophy, the history of philosophy, so kind of the history of ideas. Moved to San Francisco because a buddy said, "Hey, you got to come down here. It's the happening spot, And I didn't really plan on it, but I went and stayed with a weekend with them and ended up having a bunch of fun and partying and everything. I said, "Yeah, of course, why not? It's time." I'd been in books in academia for 4 years. I mean, I was not like a party college person. I was really like...
Where'd you go to school?
Humboldt State University, which...
So up north.
Well, and everyone, and rightly so, thinks, oh, okay, you were baked on bong hits the whole time. Mm-hmm. That was like the first semester, and then I burned out on it and really didn't touch it for the next 4 years, And if you're not into getting stoned a lot, the Redwoods are a great place to
with books
so and read.
Beautiful.
I mean, I just did a complete deep dive into academia. So when I got out, I felt like I'm ready to let loose. Like, I'm ready to party. I'm 24, and let's go to a rave, or let's take some R2D2 XTC LSD, whatever.
Yeah.
So I did all that and moved around, with the rent waves and everything. But back then, you could afford it, and I worked at really crazy jobs that I would get just for the novelty of it. I worked at a place. My first job in San Francisco was working for Frenchie's porn house down on Geary in the Tenderloin. Basically, we sold adult movies and adult products, blow-up dolls, and it had the best piece of real estate.
People actually buy those things. Does anybody buy those for the intended purpose? Or
Well,
is
they
it
certainly
always
tried
a
to
joke?
steal a lot of them. That was kind of my job.
Do you think it's always a joke, though?
Well, it depends on what product we're talking about. It's a case-by-case thing.
The blow-up dolls with the big round lips?
Yes.
That are just...
Yes.
Do you think people ever put their wiener in there?
Yes.
They do?
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
it's not an attractive doll.
Well, they especially weren't attractive back then. Now they've got these
got
Japanese
the real
Blade
dolls.
Runner
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
But back then it was literally like,
it
bouncy
was like an
castle with a
inflatable
vagina.
that should be in the pool. Yeah, it looked like that diva. It looked like Bougie Boy. Diva's
People would try and
mascot.
steal them. I mean, I have to preface it. It was this piece of real estate. It was right down on Geary and Polk, in between a methadone clinic, a homeless shelter, and a prostitution massage parlor on top of it. So it was like you couldn't get any more of a choice piece of real estate. And it was an all-night thing.
Is that the
24
Tenderloin?
hours.
What do you call that, the Tenderloin?
Now maybe
Tender
I don't know
knob.
what they now it's Little Hanoi. I don't know what it's. They've got it all broken up now.
Oh, okay.
But back then it was the Tenderloin, Polk Gulch.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
Yeah, and basically I'd work graveyard shifts, I'd be chasing people who were shoplifting, coming in constantly stealing these dolls. And one of my big first kind of awakenings to San Francisco, and specifically the SFPD, happened during this time. This was in '96, and some guy ran out of the store with a blow-up doll, and one of my coworkers or something says, "There he goes, grab him, Aaron." So I went running out. This happened every night. We'd chase people all up and down Polk Street with our merchandise, and I was running after him, and he ran up into an alley, like down in the Tenderloin somewhere, and I'm chasing him down this dark alley, and all of a sudden these lights just go whoom, and they come on. It was just like a Hollywood movie, and it was a police car sitting in the alley, and the police get out, waiting for something. I don't know what, scouting, who knows. Anyways, they turn on the lights.
They're probably looking at porn.
Probably. Well, this is kind of before internet and iPhones, so who knows. But anyways, they get out of the car. They don't grab him. They grab me. Because I'm You're
the aggressive one.
I'm the aggressive one. I'm chasing him. They cuff me, everything, put me down on the ground, what's going on? Meanwhile, I'm looking over, and they're just talking to him, and he's the shoplifter. Of course, they don't know that, but I'd think that they would still sort of surmise maybe that some white boy, chasing some homeless person through the Tenderloin with a blow-up doll, how often do you see that? So I tell him the story, and I say, no, I work at Frenchie's over here. This guy stole, that's ours. He took it. He ran out of the store with it. It's merchandise, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, let's check this out. So then they go over, they get his story. Meanwhile, I'm handcuffed on the ground.
Yeah.
He's, just kind of telling the story. He's got a trench coat on. And then they come back over to me and they say, well, I don't know. You probably don't know him. You work at Frenchie's? I say, yeah. Well, this is Bill. He's had a rough time, and he's
so they knew him.
Oh, yeah. First name basis.
Right when he was running down the street. They were protecting him.
He's kind of been down on his luck lately. We'll give you back the doll, but I don't think it'd be a good idea to press charges over any of this,
Okay, but when they were saying that, were they insinuating don't press charges?
Exactly.
They were protecting him?
Exactly.
But why?
I don't know. And it was the weirdest.
It's a crooked goddamn town.
So really that was my first kind of like, what is going on down here, And I was too young to really get it. It's something that I've looked back on much later in life and thought like, wow, that was kind of really a milestone little situation where I was kind of confronted with a culture in the way that we deal with crime and homelessness in the city that is like...
It encourages it. I have theories on this. I mean, the hard left corrupt... The corrupt hard left, not the ideologically hard left, because there really are people that are somehow believe in the really hard left communist type politics. They really believe it. But there's a hard left type that are just straight up corrupt. And I keep telling people about this, because now, of course, it's, and this is fair, by the way, you've got the rest of the country making fun of San Francisco. It's like, hey, you got poop all over.
San shithole.
There's poop everywhere. And I'm like, well, that's a fair criticism because there is a lot of poop in the Tenderloin. There's a lot of poop by the freeway exits and stuff like that. Not my neighborhood. There's no poop in my neighborhood. There's probably no poop in your neighborhood.
Well, to blow it out, I mean, most of the big cities in the world are crawling in poop. So
exactly. But my point is like, when you've got these situations, you want money. And there's no better way to get a $30 million homeless bond than by making the problem look even more terrible than it really is. You keep it because that's your vote. That's how you get the votes for the money. And then, come on, once they get that $30 million bond, it just gets split up amongst the cronies. They all get it's poverty pimping. You know what I mean? They get money from it. It's a very lucrative business to pimp out poverty.
It definitely seems like there's some sort of exacerbation machine that.
Well, look where it is. It's almost relegated to the most visible places. They control it in neighborhoods, but wherever it's visible, it's like, okay, yeah, let them build a tent city right there where everybody drives past it to the freeway. It's almost they literally put it where the billboards are.
Yeah,
it's like wherever advertisers put their big billboards, that's where you're going to see the problem. It's almost is that blatant of marketing. To me.
And now you've got a lot of this tech money moving in, and people, which I'm not against. I mean,
I'm not either.
But these people, a lot of people that are moving in, and since they're newcomers or whatever, when they say, well, we've got a little problem here. There's needles all over the place. This person's dying. I think this person's dead. This person's covered in their own feces. Maybe we should do something about that. And then you got this whole choir of people that go up against them.
Yeah.
And bring out all this.
Rich motherfucker. Fucking tech bros ruining our city.
Tech bros. That's the big one, yeah.
Oh, God. I actually filmed a couple of these little funny things I never posted. I always make all these funny little videos, that I think I'll post and I never do. But one of them was I went down to the Mission and pretended in the voice that stupid. I just sat in the Mission like at noon.
Your stupid Merkley voice?
Yeah, that stupid Merkley voice. When I just sat there and pointed my camera at all these people going, fucking tech bros, man, there's a tech bro. But the fact is there aren't any. If you go down there at noon in the Mission, it's a bunch of Mexican immigrants and people. It's hard to even find a white person walking around the Mission in the middle of the day.
Well, so here's what happened. You saw the video about the. I agree. You saw the video about the tech bros who thought they were entitled to the soccer field.
Yeah.
Remember that was a big hoo-ha that blew up and everything? Yeah, but I mean, how...
They followed a rule. There was a rule that said you could book the park.
Yeah.
If you don't want the rule, then you don't. They were just upset because it was Tech Bros that booked it. There was an actual rule that said, if you want to book this park for private usage, you can book it. So they did.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think what happened is people made that indicative of this whole kind of cultural thing going on. And
that's kind of what I'm
still
saying. My big problem with San Francisco, it's not the new kids. I mean, it is in a way because this new overly left liberal tech money drives me nuts. I know
the new kids that you don't like are the problem, but not the new kids that you like.
Right. That's exactly the same. But no, I really don't see them as much the problem. The people that annoy me are guys my age. They're the moaning people who didn't do anything. They didn't plan for their life. They didn't buy property. They just decided they were going to Peter Pan it through their whole life. And now they're realizing, oh shit, you really can't Peter Pan into your 50s. You know, I don't have anything. I don't have a retirement
I think
fund.
Peter Pan should officially be an actual verb for this phenomenon.
It's Peter Panning. Yeah. There's a lot of Peter Panners here. And now they're all upset because somebody owes them a low rent and somebody owes them this. I'm like, you realize the rest of the country, this Peter Panning isn't tolerated in other places. Yeah. You got to get your shit together and pay your own way. Yeah, but I'm evil landlord. You're fucking... You know, it's like, no, dude. Yeah. You know, that's not the way it goes.
It's funny because I've heard that word before in terms of like an actual verb, Peter Panning, and I used to be kind of proud of it about San Francisco. You know, I used to be like, well, yeah, why can't you just
when you're young,
live your life and do what you want, and you can be you don't have to give in to the status quo, and you can be whoever you want to be, and do whatever you want to do, and why give in to society's rigid parameters of what life should be about.
Why can't I just put my tent right here, man? I can just live wherever I want. What the fuck, your property? Oh, your gate? Oh, what are you protecting in there, you greedy fuck? I'm just gonna camp right here. Oh, like I need a toilet. I'm an animal just like anybody else. Your dog craps in the street. Why can't I?
Brilliant. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I've even had a lot of friends that are Peter Panning. I've Peter Panned for years myself, and at some point you realize there's a little bit.
Yeah, but
of
you had children. You
well,
have
no,
a
I just
family.
recently have children, so that's what helped me get out of
not
the
that
Peter
recently.
Panning.
I saw them; they were kind of tall.
Yeah.
How old are they?
6 and 8.
8. Okay, so not that recently.
Yeah, but I mean that was only still in my 40s. My daughter was born when I was
47, and you're 39.
39.
Okay,
yeah.
Little bit late.
A little bit late.
Little bit late.
Yeah.
Well, better late than
I'm
never.
here to admit. Yeah. And so I spent my 20s and 30s running around, tentacles first up and down the Mission and everything, going crazy and on drugs and doing all that sort of stuff. Being a DJ, putting on parties, blah blah blah. So I felt that once I hit, got into my 40s, that's when it really started to be like, whoa, wait a minute. But the thing is, I have tons of friends that are still doing all that.
Yeah.
And they're even older than me and still go Peter Panning, as we could say. And, I don't want to get judgmental about it. I don't know. The only thing I can speak on is my own life, keeping my own kitchen clean. Well,
okay. Let me ask you this, though. This might be hard for you. This might be okay. So this is what I've noticed about you. All right, we don't know each other very well, right? But we've been social acquaintances and friendly for about a decade now.
About a decade, yeah.
Maybe more than a decade.
Yeah.
But I see you still kind of riding that line. I've basically committed social suicide at San Francisco. I think everybody knows that. I don't care what anybody thinks about me
I want to talk
anymore.
about that too.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care. You don't want to.
I want to get under the hood with that.
I am much more interested in being honest and truthful about my ideas than I am being well liked. And I flushed it down the toilet. I was a very well liked person a decade ago.
It's a brave decision.
I was, but I just couldn't. I couldn't have it any other way. Keeping my lips zipped about stuff just to maintain the peace wasn't good with me. So I committed social suicide, and just by saying no, I'm going to say it how I feel it. Yeah. I'm not going to bend the knee, so to speak, to you guys that are trying to bully me into your politics or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen you
bending knee,
not bending knee, but maybe being quieter about things. You're definitely more diplomatic than I am, but I'm seeing you having. I'm sensing these really adult opinions coming out of you. But what is the push? Are you feeling pressure and pushback from your people?
Well, of course, yeah. Here's the thing, I think, and this is kind of this is a deep theme. I think that one kind of central, let's say, intellectual trope that I think is that a lot of this is so damn esoteric. You know what I mean? Like tomorrow we could wake up, we could have, you could talk about anything. You could talk about all the scary crap people thinks going on and Trump and blah, blah, blah. It's all going to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in fast forward to 6 years, we're going to have a completely different climate. Remember when we had W? Remember how everything was polarized then?
No, they were calling. I remember I ran into an old bandmate of mine, right? The lead singer of my old band in Utah also moved here. In fact, my whole band moved here after we broke up as a band, even though when we were a band, I was trying to get them to move here. Everybody resisted moving here. Yeah. When we were a band, I said, let's move to San Francisco. No. We break up. Everybody moved here anyway. But anyway, I saw him at an incredibly strange wrestling event. And he was wearing a sandwich board.
Was that what it's called officially?
Do you don't remember that? The Incredibly Strange Wrestling.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. It was kind of punk rocky. Yeah. It was, what's his name's the whole thing? That guy, I don't remember. I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was wearing a sandwich board with a picture of George W. Bush with a Hitler mustache. So this is nothing new. Calling people you don't like Hitler isn't really new. It's just that it disappeared for 8 years, pretty much, when Obama was president.
Well,
and then it's ramped up 1 billion degrees.
Well, and to be fair, the crazy people on the right had their own history in it. Crazy, he's going to turn the White House into a pyramid and death
sure, but we didn't see that here.
We didn't see it here.
No.
Yeah.
So I mean, the conservatives that were here didn't do it. I pushed back a little bit on Obama, as I meant to do, but I didn't go, he's the worst thing. I controlled myself.
I think
he wasn't. I voted for him the first time.
Yeah. Well, I think what I mean is, like, deep down, there's a piece of me that thinks, like, I think what's going wrong in and I hate to use this word, but toxic in our culture is that we're looking at politics first. When I look at Merkley, I'm looking at, what do I know about what he believes in? His political paradigm of the world, everything. I look over here, here's Cheryl, here's Kelly, here's my friend Mark. What do they think? And it's such a tiny fraction of who people are.
I agree. And you wouldn't even know these things about these people without social media.
And the social media obviously gins that up to a level where those are just the colors that you see.
Well, really, would you even know these things about these people? You wouldn't, because most of the time, that's what drives me crazy, is like in San Francisco, a lot of these times I see these people's political posts, and I know, because I know them socially, I know that they put almost zero time into politics. They're putting all their time into DJing and partying and all these other things.
Yes.
So when you see when it seems like they're adamant about some politics online, I'm inclined to go, fuck you. I know you don't think about this, and I know you don't even care about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so my thing is, I just don't want to get wrapped up in that kind of looking at just that facade of what someone has glazed from some stupid BuzzFeed or the Hill article that they believe in. I see that all the time with my friends, and they repost, and God damn it, oh my God, we're on the verge of the next Holocaust. And I just try and take a step back and be like, you know what, it's happened to me. It's contagious. It's a crazy thing, but I don't want to read these people on just that level. We have so many things in common. This is a person I play piano with.
I agree.
Merkley, he does this. I love his art, blah, blah, blah. So I try not to get swept up into that. I mean, I do have my political opinions about things, which I will get in with
Hey,
people.
Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler have a lot in common.
Do they?
I mean, they have more in common than they don't. They have more in common than they do with me and that tree, or a starfish and a parakeet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all really have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Every human being has more in common.
Way more.
Than they don't.
Yeah. And these little political, chastising, galvanizing chasms that have sprung up. I mean, it's so ephemeral and trivial when you think about it. That's not to say that a lot of times I feel very I mean, I'm human. I feel like, you guys are full of bullshit. Come on, let's everyone rein this back. Let's everyone do our due diligence. Look into these articles. We're being bullshitted too. Blah blah blah. But I don't want to. And that's something I think about you. God damn, how does this guy? He was actually posting. I'm gonna exaggerate it here just for effect, but tens of thousands of people who left him on Facebook.
Oh, well, no, it's not even
I'm
really
exaggerating, obviously, but
it's not even that much of an exaggeration, though. It's like pissing them all off.
And on one level, I'm thinking like that's horrendous, and on another level, I'm thinking like I got to give it to Merkley for having this. I don't know, fortitude or bravery to stick to his guns,
Well, what is it? What other choice is there? I mean, that's the other thing. And I was going to ask you.
It's the walking on eggshells choice, Merkley.
That's what I mean. Well, I want to, and that to me is a bad scenario. And I did that for 8 years. I just walked on eggshells. I held my tongue and all that stuff. But
I don't know if you held it that much.
I did. Oh, compared to the last couple of years, absolutely. Yeah, okay. I would at least get in there and I'd put a little spin on it and make it. There'd be a teaspoon of sugar.
Yeah.
To help the medicine go down. And but now it's just like, no, forget it.
So was there an actual milestone moment when you made this decision?
I think so. I think it's when Trump was running and everybody started calling him Hitler and literally just doubled down. It wasn't like when they called George W. Bush Hitler.
Back then, it was kind of like we can call anyone Hitler, but we don't really mean it.
Yeah.
It just means
it was a sandwich
jerk.
board at an incredibly strange wrestling event. You know what I mean? But it started to get real. Yeah. And I started going, you guys are talking about the people who I love and who I grew up with, and I know that are actually more charitable than you are. They actually do real charity. Yeah. They don't work for a nonprofit and get a healthy paycheck and pretend that they're doing charity.
Yeah.
They're doing it. So I couldn't be patient with it anymore because it started to get really dangerous. And I started getting, and then I started getting real threats of violence and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow. But that kind of made me want to do it more. Yeah. Like I'm going, this really is serious. It's not just a joke.
Yeah.
Like how often do you find yourself censoring yourself or pulling back for fear of reprisal?
All the time.
And what kind of reprisals?
I've lost friends. I don't know. I guess I'm an incredibly vain human is what it comes down to. But, and these are not people that are like my best friends my best friends all know me and they don't, they see the political stuff and they just go, whatever, I've known him for 20 years and I know who he is. So that doesn't matter to me. These are my lifelong best friends. But
and I'm going back to that too. Like my old friends, of course, haven't done any of that to me.
Yeah, your real friends don't do that. But I think there's a bit of vanity in being like a promoter, which is
of course.
You're reliant on communities,
Yeah, last thing you want is Antifa showing up to your party.
Exactly. So you're trying to gather people. You're telling them this is a fun event. Go to this event. This is going to be fun. So the last thing you want is like to have some sort of I don't know what's perceived as toxic version of that or strain of that go on within it. So obviously I've tried to curtail around those things. Sometimes it hasn't worked out so well.
But I've seen you dipping your toe. That's what I'm saying.
Dipping my toe to what?
I've seen you dipping your toe into being a little bit...
well, you can't help it. After a while, you get the insanity of it all. You're watching people just fall for the most ridiculous, histrionic, hyperbolic bullshit, And what woke me up, here's what happened to me, basically. Right. I was I've been a pretty liberal guy all my life. Went to a progressive university, voted Democrat. Mm-hmm. It was always very like, oh no, the Republicans are the evil people that want to keep us in chains or all this crap. And I lived my life like that. Had very progressive parents, atheists, kind of Tibetan Buddhists, my dad. What really kind of, if we want to get into the vernacular, red-pilled me, was when Milo came to Berkeley.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I was already kind of getting into weird back and forth with people online about cultural appropriation because I thought it was bullshit. And having...
Culture is appropriation.
Well,
by the way.
what had happened with me is
Literally.
I've studied a lot of jazz. I'm a jazz bassist, and I'd studied a lot of it and knew a lot about the history of jazz and all of its amalgamations and everything. And when I started seeing people say really, really what I thought was just cardboard caricature stuff about white people taking things from black.
Right.
Culture and making. I mean, there's something to be said for that. Elvis,
As if
blah,
you're not
blah, blah.
supposed to. As if nobody's supposed to borrow and admire.
Yeah. And so immediately that kicked in, and I was like, "Well,
Stay
wait,
in your lane, buddy."
Yeah. Immediately I was like, "There is no culture is not a stagnant thing. There's
It's
no
meant
parameters
to
on it."
be appropriated. Culture is
Yeah.
appropriation. Literally,
Yeah.
it's taking something somebody else invented and saying, "I like that too. That's us."
Yeah, and so I had a knee-jerk reaction against what I started to see as some of the I don't know, I guess we call them social justice warriors coming out about that stuff. I was like, wait a minute, culture is completely fluid, and we're all involved, and it's something that's changing. There's no parameters on it. Nobody owns it. Blah blah. Blah. So I was already getting into trouble with some of that stuff. But what really kind of turned the tides was when Milo came to Berkeley, and
The
all
center
of, a
of
sudden,
free speech.
I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
I didn't know Milo from Adam, but I saw people beating people bloody.
Yeah.
In
Literally.
Berkeley, and I was like, well, what is going on here? This seems like a very significant cultural situation. Like, what's the story? Oh, okay, there's a Nazi? Oh, there's a Nazi speaking at Berkeley? And then, of course, I have kind of I like to look into the I don't know, the darker side of humanity a lot. So I was like, well, who is this Nazi? Just curious about what's going on there.
Yeah,
Like,
this
well,
is great.
how bad is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know. Like, I'm kind of, and
Turns out.
so I start listening to him, and I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's gay. He's married to a black guy.
He's Jewish.
He's Jewish. What the hell? How far over our skis are we with this person? Like, what am I talking about? And I had my friends all saying, like, all supporting beating up people and the Nazis and everything. And I made a little thing where I came out and I said, maybe everyone, he's not a Nazi. We might have kind of like over-confabulated this thing, and he might just be some conservative, weird, hybrid gay dude, And the avalanche that I took for that, and
I took it
my
for Milo,
community
too.
and everything, like, you motherfucker, you white supremacist.
Yeah.
One gal even told me, she said, "Fuck you and the white supremacist horse you rode in on."
Yeah. 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 You see what I mean? It's just like, you think, hello, wait a minute. I literally moved to the land of the misfit toys to get away from people like this.
So that was the first peek behind the veil that opened up, like, whoa, I think there's some hypocrisy going on here,
Yeah, and I don't even know, I wish I knew what it was all about. I really feel like it's mostly fear-driven. Like, I keep saying that
it's totally fear-driven.
Nobody fears a leftist like a leftist, It's like, even when you get into religion, I don't want to get you into trouble, but like when you look at,
get me into trouble.
Nobody fears Islam quite like a Muslim. A Muslim fears Islam more than anybody. Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Meaning that you're more likely to, as a Muslim, you're more likely to die from other Muslims?
Yes.
Or what do you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also just be a victim of that reign.
Correct.
When you're stuck in a burqa and you can barely see through a little slit, you're a victim. You're a hostage. That's not a free choice that people make. They don't do that. So and I feel the same way about really hard lefties. I feel like a lot of people that I know, like I get private messages all the time from people saying, "Oh man, thanks for saying what you said.
I do too.
I would say it, but
now.
I can't get fired, and it would cause a whole thing." And because look what happened to you for saying, "Excuse me, maybe the gay Jew with a black husband isn't a Nazi." Maybe you can pull that back. And then when it's like, no, there is no pushing back on that.
Well, and what really scared me too is if we're just talking about Facebook, then I don't really give a shit. We can argue till the cows come home about who Nazis
Bleeds
are.
over.
But I saw actual people being beaten. Violence in the streets, and that kind of spooked me. I'm like, here's some people that are actually being beaten for a political, be it something maybe in my case, I didn't even maybe agree with it. There's some conservative that believes this or that, but we're beating them bloody in the streets.
There is a little bit of good news here. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay. I looked. It was around that time too when I started getting really serious about it, and it was when Trump was running.
Yeah.
He wasn't president yet.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say Milo helped Trump get elected, and I think so, maybe because when you got a gay guy, it becomes the champion of the young Republicans.
Yeah.
It really blows. It puts a stick of dynamite on the whole trope that Republicans hate gays, they're racist. It ruins that narrative. It ruins it, and I think that really frightened a lot of people. They're like, damn it, all my worldviews are coming crashing down. I can't hate the Republicans like I used to because their hero right now is a gay Jewish guy who is married to a black man. It really is a frustrating thing to come across something like that.
And kind of in a more of an overarching, I was never even a Trump supporter. I thought the guy was a schmuck, kind of a used car dealer guy. And I think there's a constituency of people like myself who were never really even into Trump, but we see him as this valuable icon in terms of he has become this Rorschach for the left. He's brought out these weird feelings that they've had. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not into Trump. I don't know. I can take him or leave him as any politician.
But you're right. But the way he triggers is really revealing.
It's really revealing. And so it's like I've kind of almost
it's like ripping off that Scooby-Doo mask.
I've kind of appreciated his term in regards to what it has revealed about what others see as America. And how bad they see, how hyperbolic
and again,
they see.
I don't think they see it that way. I think the most of America are just nice people that are trying to get along.
That's true, but I'm talking about the people that project this other America where the KKK is behind every scene. And
do you really? But how many? I don't think most of the people that even profess to believe in that believe it. I think that most of them are using that as a fear tactic to get their guy in. I think it's a desperate measure.
It's an interesting point, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I was getting to this good news. So when that all happened with Milo and all that stuff in Berkeley, I started looking up the people that were getting arrested, these Antifa people. I started looking them up online.
Here locally in Berkeley?
Yeah. Because I thought, because they cap your friend level at 5,000 on Facebook, but that's still plenty. That's a lot of people. And so usually it's very rare that somebody lives in the Bay Area that I can find their profile, click on it, and share no mutual friends, right? Usually there's an overlap, at least 5 people.
Well, maybe 5,000. With you, Merkley.
No, but really. But then I started clicking on these Antifa people, these really hard lefties, violent ones, and there wasn't any overlap. So I was going, isn't that interesting? That
how are you identifying their profiles?
Just finding their names. You just
Where
find
were
their
you
names.
finding their names?
Off Antifa Twitter.
You're actually doing deep dive into Antifa?
Absolutely, because...
You are a maniac.
Well, and also because I was concerned because, my vans were getting vandalized and stuff like that, too. And so the way that I've been speaking, I've been thinking, well, it's only a matter of time before they target me. And so I wanted to see... If some of those are in my circle, then that would raise my concern level. Yeah. Because that means they'd be seeing my posts and they'd be seeing the interactions on my posts. Turns out, no overlap, which is kind of befuddling to me. That with all of these people in the Bay Area, there's really no overlap of the Antifa social circle. And my lefty Bay Area likes naked girls, likes to party social circle.
Well, why do you think that is?
I think that they're more fringe than we think. That's good news.
Yeah.
They're more fringe than we think. It makes me feel good that there isn't a lot of overlap there.
Yeah.
I would have been a lot more bummed out if these people all had you share 447 friends in common. Yeah. That would be a bummer. But turns out no friends in common. I was thinking, okay, well at least it's not as close as I think.
Yeah. Well, I've had friends who were actually in Antifa and had to,
You would have been that overlap if I would have looked them up.
I guess so, yeah, because I've had friends that are definitely involved in it and you.
Well, it sounds good. I'm
Well,
anti-fascist.
it's a LARPer's dream.
Yeah.
You're in a comic book DC Marvel movie.
Who isn't?
Yeah.
That's what one of the things that drives me crazy about the word is like, who isn't anti-fascist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, duh.
Yeah, you're fighting evil.
I'm anti-mosquito.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations. So is
flying
everybody.
spaghetti monster. You know, we're going to get out there and kill the thing before it destroys humanity.
I'm anti-Hitler. Oh, okay. Great.
So you know, and that's kind of how it is too. And you have to just back off and say, okay, well, you got to find your own path and whatever that is. But at the same time, I feel like it's a horrible thing when it turns into violence against free speech, because I'm a big free speech person. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't like that, and I try and criticize that when I see it. You know, like, okay, you're shutting down this person for saying this, or you're hyperbolizing this person into some sort of which is the very worst example of humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
From the last,
the number one worst one.
Like, oh no, you're kind of like Genghis Khan. No. Let's go right to Hitler.
It's the most popular one. It'd be funny if people would actually get more precise and not go for the worst one.
Yeah.
They would just pick something that's kind of bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of into just Charles
who's one? You know who you're like? The Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
That guy's totally like the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
Or who's somebody that's, you know who you're like? You're just like Bill Cosby.
Well, you know what I think what happened is, and this is a cultural milestone, is Charlottesville. Charlottesville, you did have, and I say this.
I deep dove into that one too, and if you want to get in trouble right now, I deep dove and I watched the video over and over again from multiple angles of this alleged white supremacist that ran over people. He didn't just run over people.
Right.
He was driving slowly down the street. Suddenly a couple of Antifa people start smashing his car with clubs from the back. He freaks out and punches the gas. I go, that looks like fight or flight to me, and then suddenly runs people down. It wasn't in at all, I'm just going to run over people, that's my plan. It's like, oh shit, they're banging on my car.
Yeah.
It's like every horror movie is a bunch of zombies starting to bash on your car, and you're stuck in there and they eat your brains.
Yeah.
You know? There's a fight or flight response to
Totally. And I mean, I won't pretend to know that story, but I mean, be that as it may, that was where they actually were able to corral. There's always been actual neo-Nazis in our country,
right,
and
always.
Unfortunately, will probably always be.
That's why I was in a ska band.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them for at least as long as I've been alive, the decades where they're walking down the streets of Pork Band, Utah, with their Nazi flags and everything. Somehow they were able to corral them all into, and I've got theories about this. I've heard different theories about it. Corral them all into Charlottesville. We're still not talking about more than 300 people.
Oh, less than that.
Yeah.
You're talking maybe 50 people.
You're talking about the tiniest sliver of the American culture, of
so
American
small.
Demographic. But
Half
it was
of them
so
teenagers.
scary that the media could take that and say
blow it up.
Charlottesville is
that
everywhere.
We're still talking about
it's
it
everywhere
as
now.
If it's
yeah. And that was one little tiny town where you basically got a bunch of people out of the woods. You had them all there. There they are. And it's not like it's some major campaign going on throughout American conscience.
But nobody wants to talk about the fact that you're talking about 50 guys, against these guys, and you're talking about a fight where two parties were involved. The Antifa. Like, you shouldn't be beating somebody's car with clubs, especially if it's a car driving down a cram-packed alleyway. Don't do that. The chances that they're going to hit the gas are probably pretty high.
So you're standing up for the Nazis. Interesting.
Yeah, see, exactly. And that's exactly what people would want to think with that. It's like, no, you've got to look at the whole story.
Yeah.
You got to go, did this guy... It would be one thing if you could see him just mowing down a bunch of people unprovoked. Like, you'd go, holy shit.
I don't even know the story, actually.
That's crazy.
I didn't even know.
There's a guy in his Charger. He's driving down, trying to get through traffic. The whole thing is packed, and then people start beating on the back of his truck.
I know that when crowds face off, and you see this all the time recently in Portland, Proud Boys and Antifa and everything, bad things are going to happen. It's just inevitable.
If somebody was beating on my car, I might gun it. Fight or flight is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, you might go, fuck, I got to get out of here. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. I mean, but that is one of the big talking points. Everybody goes, whoa, that's...
Well, they try and project it onto everything else.
Yeah.
Charlotte, and then if you talk about anything else, well, no, Charlottesville. And remember how Trump said, you know, good people on both sides, and which was, they really fucked up what he said. He wasn't talking about that. But they try and make it this blanket for the United States now.
Everybody's like that.
And I don't deny that there's racism in the United States. I know it firsthand in my own family, you know, with some of the older generation stuff. But we've come a long way, and there's been so much that has changed. And now I think
it's mostly good. People
mostly
get
very good.
along
It's
for the
mostly
most part.
very
You
good.
walk into Walmart and people are nice to each other. Everybody's wanting to get along.
Yeah.
There's less of the bullshit than there ever has been, but every tiny incident, including everyone that's made up, and boy, do people like to invent drama. You know, they love to invent a hate crime.
Yeah.
That Jussie Smollett thing, I mean, he's the perfect...
Smollett?
Yeah, but it's really, that happens almost, remember right after he was elected, and there was this, everybody like, I got hate crimes, I got hate, every one of them, there's this website that says fake hate crimes, and it just lists all of them.
I saw that.
And there's so many of them, they're almost all fake. And I have experience with that too, because growing up religious, everybody wants to invent a Satan story.
Are you a Satanist?
No, they want to invent a Satan story. Like
gotcha.
a story like, oh, this is the time I was confronted with the devil.
Ah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really a thing. You
Wow,
know,
I didn't know
like
that.
people like Christians wanting to invent their brush with Satan.
It's kind of like a
Satan.
milestone, something you have to overcome.
Well,
at a certain
what
level,
it does is it validates and verifies the belief system. That's really what it is. Okay, even a better thing is my mom dated this hypnotist named Ravine. Right, he was a big hypnotist in the 70s. You got to look him up. He looks like Wolfman
Is he
Jack.
from New Orleans?
I mean, he's from Canada, but he would tour the country and he'd do these mass
Your parents are
hypnosis.
from Calgary, right?
Born in Calgary, yeah.
Yeah.
But we grew up in Utah.
Yeah.
But she dated this guy, and I went and saw a few of his shows, and I saw these mass hypnosis things. He'd invite a bunch of people up on stage,
Right.
and he would pretend to hypnotize them. And crowd would believe it, but he'd invite like maybe 50 people up, and then he'd start dismissing them. And then to figure out what group he wanted to hypnotize. And then he'd eventually whittle the group down to about 12 or 13. And I remember asking him as a kid, I was probably only about 10 years old, I was like, how do you choose which ones are going to stay and which ones are going to go? And he goes, I know who's going to play along. I do little tests.
He told you this as like an aside.
He was up front with me.
Yeah.
He was actually really up front with me.
Wow.
He was like, oh, I just see who's going to play along. He was like, I don't really hypnotize people. It's just like, you see who's going to play along. And he has little tests.
Why did he divulge that to you? You ever thought about that?
I was a 10-year-old kid. He didn't care. I don't think he was a charlatan. It's like Penn and Teller. You know, I like those guys in the fact that they're not. They debunk magicians. And like also one of my my big heroes is what's his name? Now I'm forgetting his name. James Randi, a magician who debunks people who actually pretend to have magical powers. You know, but he's an actual magician. He's like, no, this is a trick. It's a trick. It's fun. It's for entertainment.
So he's giving away all magicians' tricks, this person?
James Randi and Penn and Teller do that. They're like, this is a trick. They won't tell you how they did it, but they will tell you that there's no magic here.
Yeah.
This is an illusion. And they'll often sometimes show you exactly how you did it, how they did it, and you'll be amazed. And they don't like the magicians that are charlatans, that are trying to claim metaphysical or mystical. You know,
are there really those
gifts.
type of magicians out there now?
Oh, yeah.
That are really actually
Look up James Randi first came on the scene because he debunked that psychic that Johnny Carson was really. He debunked him on Johnny Carson's show. What's his name? I can't remember.
I thought Johnny Carson was
But
the
he was
psychic.
bending spoons and stuff like that, making them fall apart. And James Randi was going on saying, this is how he does it. And he's had this $1 million award saying anybody that can prove that they have metaphysical or mystical powers, you can claim this prize. Anybody that can prove they're a psychic, I'll give you this $1 million prize if I can't prove you're doing a trick. And he proved also, like these traveling preachers, he caught one of them with a microphone in their ear, and he picked up the signal and busted him. So James Randi's one of these guys too. Where was I going with this? What were we talking about?
What was the Hollywood movie that's made about those? The tent evangelist. Remember?
Was Steve Martin in it?
No. It goes back to like the 40s or 50s.
I don't know.
Anyway, Yeah.
But anyway, Ravine. I was talking about Ravine, and I was saying that people will go along with it. That was a huge tangent. I think we were relating it to walking on eggshells and people. We were talking about Nazis and lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, I the walking on eggshell thing is very poignant to me because I'm walking on eggshells, Mikey.
You are. I see that. I see that. And in one way, I want to say stop it because. Except for, you know what, the fucked up thing about the Bay Area is I mean, this is another one of the private messages that I keep getting a lot of is
private messages from people
former lefties, people that have attacked me in years past, people that have come after me and said, yeah, well, you're this and you're that, white male, and then all of a sudden they'll send me a private message to apologize. They go, you know what happened to me the other day? And I go, let me guess. Somebody told you to shut up because you're a white male, a straight white male. Yeah, exactly. And this person called me a racist, and I got ganged up on in this thing. And I'm like, going, see DJ, Mr. DJ that everybody loves? They're coming after you, too. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I mean about the whole thing of nobody fears the left like the left.
Well, it's there's the cannibalization whole, trope about it, and that's true.
And the circular firing squad.
All the time, circular firing squad.
Yeah. Yep.
Now the Puritan, they're taken out. Now, no, you were the wrong. No, you didn't step up. You didn't blah blah. And I really hope that people are. I don't know. I really hope that people are waking up to that. I don't know that
feel
it's
a fatigue. I feel a fatigue coming on, and like I keep saying, is like I've see the funny thing about me is I was at first defending Trump just because I defend everybody. Like I got in trouble for defending Weinstein. I got in trouble for defending.
You defended Weinstein.
I got in trouble for
monster.
I got in trouble for defending that cooking chef, that lady who was a lady that loves butter. And she said a bad word. I have a
well, that's kind of how I am
I have
too.
a defense lawyer's mentality. I want to defend. When I see somebody being attacked, my first inclination is to go, well, what makes you so fucking great?
Yeah,
you're attacking this person.
I call it kind of a Johnny Cash kind of like always kind of for the people that are beaten down, the people that have been like you're always kind of. I mean, obviously he was a big prisoner person, did concerts
it is that.
and everything. It's kind of like you're always like, you know what? Well, how non-human is this person? There's a bit of humanity.
It's kind
in
of a
this person.
Jesus thing, really.
It's
a Jesus thing.
Yeah.
It's just like he who is without sin cast the first stone. That stuff stuck in my mind, and I've always been like, how dare you attack this person?
Yeah.
What's so great about you? Why don't
you
slow down?
When you get attacked, it kind of doubles down on your feeling about that. When you see other people get attacked, you're like, well, how bad. And of course, there's assholes out there. There's people that are, there's bad people that are doing things, but I don't know. And in that, I think I'm really liberal. I think I'm.
You are.
Yeah,
I'm
willing to go
liberal.
out on what do they call it? Hard on your
sleeve.
On your sleeve and defend people, or at least try and give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think that's a basic tenet of being a kind human being is to give the benefit of the doubt and go, hold on, slow down, everybody chill out. You're calling a gay Jew married to a black guy a Nazi. Just slow down.
Lay in the reins here.
Just slow down. All you got to do is think about it, sleep on it. Dig in, actually go. But I don't think people have time for that, and they're afraid to do it too.
It's all fear. All this comes down to fear.
What if I click on a Milo link and then somebody sees that I clicked on a Milo link?
Yeah.
What if I accidentally like it? There is a lot of that too. People will literally tell me, I can't even like your stuff because if I like it, people can see that you liked this post.
Yeah, it's public.
And then that's an endorsement.
Yeah.
And as if there's something wrong with endorsing basic reasonable things. Like, guess what? All Republicans aren't Nazis. Hate to inform you. I know it might shatter your worldview.
Well, you know what? That's kind of a big thing now with the internet is like how we're all in a powwow about looking at each other and what each other's moves might be, or each other's, who we might like or who we dislike, or who we're, what do they call it, signaling.
Yeah.
To. I mean, it all comes down to that, and everyone's sort of watching in this weird way. There's a great Twilight Zone episode. There's a million great Twilight Zone episodes, obviously, but there's one where they kind of, I don't know if you've seen it, where they...
I can go with epizones.
Epizones,
yeah.
Where they like run from house to house trying to figure out who... There was some alien spacecraft that crashed in someone's backyard and it's starting to do weird things like turn off people's electricity, or all of a sudden their car is out of gas. So everyone's experiencing this wild stuff, but they don't know what the impetus of it is. So they start going around accusing their neighbors. Merkley,
right?
You did it. What are you doing? Do you know about this? What's going on? And you're like, no, I don't know what's going on. My car's out of gas too. My oven doesn't work.
It sounds like Kafka.
It's very Kafka.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the conspiracy, and the accusatory.
It's a deflection.
Yeah.
It really is. A lot of it is like. I made a podcast called Empathy yesterday, and it's about that. When there might be a dark side to empathy, people always think that it's this beautiful thing, like, I can feel how another person feels. But it also, that doesn't just include their sadness or whatever, it also includes projection. So you can go, it's very easy for a person to project things onto others, the things that they think themselves. I usually find that's mostly the truth. Like when somebody goes, you're a racist, I'm going, what do you need to talk about here? What's going on? Let's talk about these feelings that you're having, because they originated in your mind. They didn't originate from their actions. They originated in your mind. Now, what is it in your mind? What imagination? I want to talk about what you imagined this person feels. And I want you to realize that is in your mind. That story is a story you created, and let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why you created this vision in your mind that these people are Nazis.
Well, that's kind of a common thing going on contemporarily. I mean, in terms of race, you always say how do we turn into Smurfs? The race is racist. The race is he's racist and racist. He racist berries are racist, and now we're racist. And it's like, God damn, we're just supplanting this.
Is there a Smurf song I'm missing?
Well, I mean,
were you riffing off a Smurf song that I don't know?
Well, no. The Smurfs would supplant all their vocabulary with the word Smurf.
Oh, okay.
So they'd be like, Papa Smurf went to the Smurf, Smurf.
Oh, okay.
And the other Smurfs would understand what they were saying. They could decode it or whatever.
Okay.
But as a viewer, you were kind of like, wow, they're just talking Smurf. Well, that's how it's become with racism. He's a racist because racism is going on here. He's a racist, and you see it.
Well, another thing is that's so convenient about racism is to me it's the new evil. It's the new ghost. Because you can't see it, it's just floating out there. It's this invisible thing. It's a thing you can pin on anybody because they can't prove otherwise. You can't. If somebody calls you a witch, you've got to just go, okay. Because how do you prove you're not a witch?
Yeah.
There's no way to prove you're not a racist. It's an easy label to pin on somebody. It's the old scarlet letter. It is the new Puritanism for sure. It's the new. It's welcome back to Salem. You're a racist. Yeah. Now you're on trial. You're convicted. Now die.
And they're projecting it around, and you see it swirling around in their own head, and then you see some clouds. And you're like, okay, white clouds, racist. You're projecting it onto all these, corners of reality that.
Well, that's that Twilight Zone episode that you're talking to.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like if I accuse that guy of doing it, nobody will think I did it. I think that's a lot of the psychological background noise that's going on. It's like, if I accuse this guy, if I get on the internet and call XYZ people Nazis, people will for sure not think I'm a Nazi. Yeah. That's why you see so many of these people are white people, because they're more afraid.
Exactly.
They're more likely to be targeted as being that evil thing. So they have to get out in front of it. I got to get out in front of this first. I got to start calling somebody else this first, because otherwise, what happens if they start calling me that? And that's the notes that I get in my private inbox.
Same. The fear.
It happened to me.
The fear that they're going to be all of a sudden, ostracized for whatever thing.
And they will eventually. That circular firing squad will catch up. I think it'll probably burn out first. And that's what I see happening. I mean, if you're following the stories, it seems like the hard left media sites are all failing. They're all going out of business.
Are they really? Is that true?
Yeah. What was the one that just went down? One of the biggest ones just went down yesterday. Tim Pool was reporting about it.
I would like to see some of them.
Progress.
I don't
Think
even know that
one of the more popular ones. bankrupt. They're all going bankrupt, because it's that get woke, go broke kind of a thing. It's not really popular. It's not really how people think. It's a form of mania. I swear it's a form of mania.
Yeah.
It's a fear-based form of reaction. I don't know. I wish it would go away, though, because it has made San Francisco almost intolerable for a guy from Utah.
So you're moving.
Well, if I can ever get off my if I can get off my lazy ass and fix up my house to sell it, yeah.
Yeah. Where are you looking at in terms of
you know what?
destinations?
Honestly, going back to Utah these days, I hate leaving the ocean, right?
Yeah.
But where are we sitting right now? We're sitting in a van, and I can take this thing wherever I want. So my home base could basically be anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but God, I hate saying goodbye to all the wonderful things that I love about San Francisco, like the weather and the architecture and the smell of this park, even the eucalyptus trees, and
great.
The proximity to the ocean. Oh my God, these things I love so much about San Francisco. Like literally, I love going out to the beach and walking down. The air here, I absolutely love. If I could just transplant in, if this city wasn't 100% the way it is, like 0 people in my district voted for Donald Trump. 0 people. That's not balanced. I want to live somewhere where it's at least 25% of people on the other side. I would love a 50-50 place. Where people really had to get along.
San Francisco is a liberal progressive city.
I know.
Merkley.
I moved from the reddest of the red to the bluest of the blue. I made a tape about that too. And I can tell you, the reddest of the red are more tolerant. I think we talked about this.
We did.
You talked about your kids go to a Catholic school, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Tell me what you were talking about. I don't want to.
So basically, I was talking about how I think there's a weird thing that we're kind of trained to think like we're sort of trained to think like we go to these big cosmopolitan cities, and that's where, and I believe this for years, and I even kind of put my own theory of advanced it, that was like, well, maybe it's because they're port cities, there's more interaction with people from all over the world. That's why San Francisco's liberal, that's why LA's liberal, that's why New York's liberal, Boston. They have more interaction with the other. And I sort of believed that for a long time. But then I started finding these enclaves of, well, what happened is I started finding that the people that I thought were very open-minded about stuff were actually very super sealed into kind of a groupthink.
Absolutely.
Type of situation.
Way
about
more.
Something.
Like, to me, the left, my friends, many friends on the left, they don't want to talk about anything.
No.
It's settled science.
No.
Whereas with my Mormon really conservative...
And they don't really know, too.
Like my super conservative friends will engage on any topic.
Yes.
Respectfully.
Yes. So I put my kids into a Catholic school, start talking to the other parents, and they're very provincial people. These are very cut and dry, like soccer moms and...
they did move to San Francisco for whatever reason.
No, they grew up. Their families are here. Yeah, okay. They're kind of like, they've got this whole genetic line. But they don't have they're super, I would even say, libertine about the things that go on and the people and different political persuasions. They might have their own political beliefs about certain things, but they just didn't come at me with kind of that weird sanctimonious, I don't know what you want to call it, but judgment.
Yeah. No.
They're
and
kind of
that
like,
used
you
to be a
believe
thing.
that, or you're kind of like this. Oh, you're one of those Burning Man people. Oh, you go to that. Okay, that's fine. That's okay, cool.
I actually keep trying to tell people this, that the nature, one of the biggest misunderstandings people have of conservatism is that it's static, that there's a stasis on it, and it's not. Yeah. It's fluid too. Yeah. It's just a slow adoption of ideas. So what are at one time liberal ideas slowly get absorbed into conservatism. So a one-time liberal idea eventually becomes a conservative idea, meaning that they want to conserve that idea.
Yeah.
The idea hasn't changed.
No, that's true.
But they're just going, but now that's part of our canon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many of these things that we grew up, like I grew up and I rebelled against religion. I rebelled against the Mormon Church because I I didn't like the way they thought about gay people mostly. Gay people drinking, outsiders. They had a.
Is that still up to date? Is that a?
Well, they're changed a lot. They've changed a lot over the last 20 years. I mean, I have to give it to the Mormons. They've really updated. They've really become more tolerant. They've become more patient, and they've become. Well, first of all, the older people are dying, and the younger people are coming in. So now we've got a bunch of people that were raised on MTV and everything else. So the things that used to be scary to older people aren't scary. Like nobody's worried about interracial marriage. Nobody's worried. They're barely even worried about gay stuff. It's like, look, do whatever you want. It doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? You live your life, and I'll live my life.
Well, that's the way I see most Christians in our country. They
now,
don't really.
Back in the day, it wasn't, but now they are.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the tent of conservatism has grown, and more people fit underneath it now. You know, I keep trying. A lot of my friends, including me, were being stubborn and trying to hold on to this title of that. I'm liberal. I'm on the left. Tim Pool's a guy who wants to keep saying that. Joe Rogan wants to keep holding on to that. And I'm going, well, actually, the ideas that you hold used to be leftist ideas, but they're now kind of absorbed into the center-right. The center-right, Milo. Come on. He is center-right in his politics. Well, and I think he kind of fakes it too. By the way, I'm not nearly as big of a fan of Milo as I used to be because I follow him on Telegram, and God, that guy overposts more than I do. He's really, really self-obsessed like nobody's business. But
Telegram is better than Parlay.
I don't know what Parlay is.
Parlay is another big new platform.
Telegram is where all the banned people are. Like
that's what Parlay was saying about themselves.
Well, maybe that's true. Maybe they are on Parlay, but they literally are. So, and it's owned by Russians, so Russians have no interest in quelling any kind of.
Gavin McInnes on.
Gavin's on there. Laura Loomer. All the band people are on there, and I follow them all. Yeah. And I'm not talking shit about Milo, but he really overposts. I'm like, okay, settle down. Get lots of squabbles and squiffs with other people on the right too.
Yeah,
he's mostly criticizing his cohorts. He doesn't have much of a team spirit. He's definitely a.
Well, he's a very what would you call a very singular monster. I think.
Yeah, but bless his heart, he's like
But those should be.
He's a necessary character.
Yeah, they should be heard from too.
He knows what he is. He doesn't make any bones about it. He admits he's a troll. He uses those things to provoke people. And I don't think when people go, "Oh, you're just a provocateur." Yeah, what's wrong with that? That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to provoke a discussion. I'm trying to provoke thoughts in your mind. I want you to think about things.
I saw something the other day. Somebody, obviously, I have these different friends who I kind of follow and everything, and one person put out this meme that said, don't let them try and trick you into a conversation. Delete their comments. That's what it said.
And they do. And they do that. Can you believe that?
I was like, is that really kind of like, you've really got some intellectual.
Oh my. I had
don't believe if they try and talk to you, just delete.
I had a DJ guy comment on my Facebook. There were some statistics he didn't like. I posted a list of statistics, basically saying that the guns aren't that big of a thing. Yeah. You don't need to worry about rifles so much. Yeah. But he was upset with it, and he literally just said, not as a joke, yeah, but that doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't promote the narrative. And I'm going, haha, that's what a person would...
The narrative of what, though? I don't understand.
His narrative is that it doesn't matter what the facts are. The narrative is that guns are bad, and you should only promote stuff that fits that narrative.
So is he being cynical?
No.
I don't understand.
No. I couldn't believe a guy like this existed, but he actually embraces that. He's literally admitting, no, facts be damned. We don't want facts.
He was actually saying,
this doesn't fit the narrative.
Feelings don't care about facts.
Yeah. He was saying this, it doesn't matter. You're ruining the narrative posting your facts.
Wow.
And he was saying this as a real argument. Get rid of these facts because these feelings are better.
Wow.
The feelings are more important. So there are people like that too. He's a nice guy too, but he spends most of his time spinning music and getting drunk and
See, I've been telling you about these people,
MDMA.
Berkeley. I've been telling you about these people.
I know, man.
I've got firsthand empirical knowledge, and it's a provincial cave.
Yeah. Provincial cave.
Yeah.
A cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good times and good things that happen, but a lot of it is what I've seen lately with other fellow people. It can end up in some not good places.
Well, now you've got kids. Are you still creating a lot of stuff?
Not really. I'm creating some stuff. I hate to sound like some artistic
Well, you created
douche.
2 kids, and raising kids is creating the next generation. So.
Well, no, I still have my little hobbies and dreams, and I hear music in my head, and I'm like, I need to, replicate this into an MP3 or a WAV file. So I still do stuff like that, mostly like tiki stuff. That's what I was going to say. I hate to sound like some, I've returned to my roots, type of douche artist. But I started out in tiki music. That's how I got into DJing is kind of through that singular door. I was not into electronic dance music at all.
Yeah.
I went to raves,
When you say tiki music, what do you mean, like Hawaiian type?
Old style Martin Denny,
Okay.
Hawaiian kind of vibraphones and birds chanting in the background. That's what actually got me into mixing. At that time, it was vinyl in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Music, and I would do tiki parties and mix that stuff. And then slowly I started ramping up into more of a dance. At that time, we were calling it what's called new lounge or electro lounge,
right?
Things like that.
Yeah.
And I started
early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
I love that stuff.
And I started playing a lot more of that, and then I sort of got swept up into this whole thing and went in a different direction. But now I'm like your dad. I'm more Hawaiian and just getting back to my roots.
Nice. Hey, look, I think those are good priorities. And by the way, I wasn't asking that question there's a lot of people that suppose oh, we have kids and then you stop doing stuff. I really, honestly, call me really conservative here, but I think raising kids and having a family, I think that's really a fantastic purpose. Even if you were only putting your energy into that, I'm like, well, hallelujah. I mean, somebody's got to do it. I think there's too much. I think a lot of the big problem is that people push that responsibility off onto others, and nobody's better qualified than the actual parents.
Well, it's only white middle class people that are even having this conversation. Everyone else is we're having kids, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't that weird?
And then upper white middle class people are I don't know, the world's gonna end. I don't know if I want to bring my little kid into this world and blah blah blah. And you're like, are you kidding me? Fuck.
The world's not gonna end.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, it is for each one of us individually at a certain point.
Yeah, of course. But they seem to have some sort of apocalyptic.
Oh, man. The doomsdayism has never been. It's weird, too, because, not to repeat myself, but I was raised on doomsdayism, on
Christianity
Armageddonism.
Is a very doomsday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But weirdly, my mother is far less doomsday now than she was when I was younger. And now everybody in San Francisco, we got 10 years left, and then the earth is over. This whole green thing it's doomsdayism.
So you're talking about AOC and her
I'm talking about AOC and every. I mean, it seems like everybody here. I get it from everybody. It's over. The Earth is destroyed. We've screwed up. There's nothing we can do. We must give over all our power to this savior government as if they're going to save things. I'm going. Wait, now why do you think government's going to solve the problem? What problems have they solved before?
Yeah.
Are they solving problems?
So getting back though to where a bunch of people jumped ship, is that there's always new people out there. You can always grab new people, but did that have any sort of
jump ship on what?
You for your political beliefs.
Oh, you mean jump ship out of the scene here?
No, out of you.
Oh, out of what?
Being friends with you.
Oh yeah,
because you stopped walking on eggshells and talking about you start to be more earnest or sincere about your political beliefs. And do you think that I guess my question is, do you think any of those people have come back
Well, on Facebook it's just too
I mean,
easy.
but it's kind of a swath.
On Facebook it's just, I mean, it's a strange thing because I know so many people hate me in the city now that now I assume everybody hates me. So I know that a lot of it's my own psychological problems, so but I also know that.
Do you go down the street and you're actually thinking that? Like,
well,
you're driving
I know
this van.
Well, first of all, I do get.
I've
been threatened with violence many times. So it's like I really do know a lot of people hate me. I know a lot of people have unfriended me. I know a lot of people have muted me and put me on silent.
Yeah.
I know just because of the interaction. Well, I don't know though because Facebook doesn't let you know what its algorithms are. Yeah. So who knows who even sees your stuff? But you feel it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know when people are like. It's really a bummer when somebody who you think you have a good relationship with, who you think knows you well, suddenly you have a squabble about kids in cages, and then they think you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And they treat you as if you are a bad person. And you're like, how did you derive how in the world did you think?
I've seen some things, you've kicked up enough dust where I saw some things that were obviously people who are friends in common were like, whoa, this guy has gone out of control. And
talking about me.
Talking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's insane, and I hate to see this, but
I
just friend
gotta do it.
And I was like, they accused you of like misogyny.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And I was like,
well, you get all of them. They come as a package.
It's a package.
Yeah, it's a package. You don't get them separately. You get misogyny, racist, a xenophobe. You get them all. Like it's a buy one get 10 free. When do they ever come as a la carte? They don't come a la carte.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. So what do? You just kind of got to go, guess they weren't a real friend anyway. And around this age, I find that a lot of people start going, oh, yeah, you can't make a new old friend. And you start realizing that the people who knew you when you were 5.
You can't make a new
old friend.
Okay. I got
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's those ones. Time means something. It really does, because they knew you when, and they know the little kid you. Like, your opinions can change and stuff like that, but the essence of you kind of stays the same.
They're locked on that, and they're not going to get dragged by some sort of ephemeral little political.
They're not going to think there's a Scooby-Doo mask underneath there. Like, well, I had no idea all that time Merkley was a Nazi.
But there were a lot of people that did.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, from your friends, there were a lot of people that were like, holy shit,
yeah,
it's a Nazi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think, nobody really confronted me like that. It's more like the first line, the people that actually know me, nobody did that. You know what I mean? Maybe one guy, Jason Long, he's kind of like that. But I didn't really know him. Like, I had maybe a couple conversations with him at raves, and that's really the extent of it. So none of that first line, most of the first line, I've just unfollowed and stopped inviting me places because I've got cooties. You know what I mean? In this world, they don't want to get my Nazi juice on them. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, I don't know, Merck's just a little bit too dangerous now. If I give the appearance that I'm his friend, I'm going to catch shit for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the bigger picture here, is like people feel that's what's going on.
Like when I catch them one-on-one occasionally, it'll be like old times, But there's a secret sense that they don't want anybody to find out that they've been hanging out with me. You know what I mean? Yeah, that because it's going to cause shit for them because I'm controversial.
You've actually experienced this.
Oh, I mean, nobody said that to me, but these are
surmised
feelings that I've felt. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like where they, for example, here's one. This might be me being paranoid, but you're with a group of these people, 3 or 4 of them, and I'm there. I'm the hot potato. You know what I mean? I'm the guy with the cooties.
You're actually there in real time.
We're hanging out. We're at the beach or something like that.
Yeah.
And in there, they'll be taking Instagram pictures, but you see them cropping me out.
Are you fucking serious?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They take pictures of each other, aiming, or they'll take a picture of me, but they won't post it. It's weird. I mean, I might be imagining it. These are things I could probably talk about to a shrink, but talking about it on a podcast is cheaper. You know, but no, you will see that, and I'll look in their Instagram feeds where I was there. It was like it'll be like 4 of us were together having a nice time. I'll look at the Instagram feeds, and it'll be pictures of all the 3 except for me.
You're problematic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but it is.
Yeah.
It's like, but isn't that crazy that we live in a place where people can't even admit they're friends with somebody?
Yeah.
Because that person's just got too much Nazi juice on them, and they don't want it to be on. They don't want to get it on them. You know, and I'm like, that doesn't happen when I go to Utah. They're not afraid of it. They're like, fuck it, we don't give a shit. That attitude is not there. I mean, there is little pockets of people.
Well, I wonder. So that's a bigger kind of question, an overarching question. Is I wonder, like, how much that is it just these coastal? We're in San Francisco, so we're in Grand Central. So is it just?
It's the groupthink.
It's just in these little pockets that this is like a major thing?
It's the extreme. It's the extreme. It's like, that's what I mean. It's like the fact that there's no balance.
This the extreme can really online.
It's not healthy.
They can really they can really show their girth.
Yeah.
I had someone build a big campaign against me because I believe that Woody Allen was innocent.
Oh yeah, that's a hot potato right there. Yeah. You know, I was one of those people that kind of came down on Woody Allen, thinking, "Oh yeah, it's gross." But then I looked into it too, and I'm like, "Ooh!" Somebody pointed me in a good direction. I was like,
"Yeah,
maybe that guy got railroaded.
Yeah,
maybe he got screwed."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not above having him be guilty too. I started out being like, I love his movies, everything. I'm not gonna like.
Yeah.
I love his art and everything. But of course, there's
it's still weird
people,
though. I mean, it's still fucking weird. He's married to his former stepdaughter. But then when you look and they realize they never lived in the same house, it's still weird. No matter what,
it's weird.
It's just weird. Out of all the people he could have picked,
it's eccentric. But in terms of the actual child rape situation with his own daughter,
exactly.
There was that article, but it came out from the older brother. It was like, you know what, bullshit. This is all. We got a crazy mom here. Yeah. Not the Frank Sinatra child, but the other one, right? Well, the mom of the Frank Sinatra child. No, but it was the article written by the other son that wasn't the Frank Sinatra's child. It was the other the Asian. Yeah, he was the one. Yeah, I read that one too. Yeah. And he made a really good case. It seemed very believable. Yeah, absolutely. Very this seems like what would happen with all the nuances. With Occam's razor, I like it. When I read a story. There's certain times it's kind of like that's how I got out of Mormonism. Is like you go, okay, this is a hard believed story, and then somebody lays it out, and they go, well, this is what actually happened. You go, oh, well, that one's believable. Yeah. That one makes completely sense. That meshes with my entire experience as being a human being. But being a dumbass, I went online and was like, you know what? First of all, I'm a big fan of Woody Allen's movies. I think they've done tremendous art in terms of intellectual, whatever you want to call it. His movies are just brilliant, and in terms of human interaction and everything. And I don't really believe that. Oh yeah, you were crucified. I was crucified. If you don't hate who I hate, then you're hateful, and I hate you. Yeah, and so the defriending started. Everything. You got to climb on board. If somebody's deemed a pariah, if somebody's deemed a Satan, you have to hate them. Why can't we just disagree? You can't defend them. Like if you Merkley believed in demons and the devil, I might not believe in that, but do I have to? I mean, why do I have to defend you over that crap? I don't know either. And why do I have to get other people? That's even bigger. Why do I have to sign? Look over here. Up? We got somebody who believes in the devil. Got to sign them up. we got to round the mob up. We got to set this thing straight. My thing is, it's a therapy. It's a weird therapy that people are doing. I've had a couple people that have combated on this, and I've realized like they're just going through a therapy where they have to find a bad guy in their life and call him out. And it is. I think it's all that stuff. It's basically, this is what I've come to realize too, is that people are going to be religious no matter what you do. Most people.
if they don't get religion from religion, then they'll get religion from a different belief system. They will turn something into a belief system. They will turn something into a dogma. You know, if it's not the actual church, then they'll turn the government into their church, or their political party, or their sports team. They're going to find
tribalism.
They're exactly right. They're going to find a belief system, and within that belief system, there is going to be a Jesus and there's going to be a Satan with a different name. There's going to be good and evil, and they're going to do the best they can to go, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. You know? I think it's just simplistic thinking, quite frankly.
Okay. That actually makes the Earth a little bit more inhabitable.
Yeah. Well, to know that it's a natural phenomenon.
Yeah. You're going to run into tribes that don't like you.
Yeah. It's just going to happen. It's kind of inevitable that people will organize themselves into these groups. And there's nothing you can do about it. What did we learn today?
Groups. Tribalism.
Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up with a positive with a positive spin. What's your positive spin?
Well, okay.
I got you right when you swallowed.
I know.
You breathed in on the wrong pipe.
Even Dum-Dums look at me like, I don't know what you're going to do from here.
Isn't that weird that one drop can go into your lung and it puts you down?
That's all it was, too.
Yeah, one tiny drop.
I think that, be that as it may, everything that goes on, my hope is that we just are able to find and I talked about this in the very beginning of the podcast, that one bit of humanity where it's not the political, facade or anything. It's just the person that we know, the people that we know. Oh, I know Merkley. Okay, he feels this way about this or that politically. Okay, I don't really give a shit about that. He did this. He made this. He plays the piano. He makes this art, everything. Like, that's the person I know, and that's the person I'm going to put in a priority above all this ephemeral political bullshit.
I think that's good. That's a good attitude, and you're probably doing it better than I am. Honestly, your method of being a little bit more eggshellies is probably better.
Eggshellies is what you're calling it now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, fuck you.
It's probably better than being the bull in the china shop that I'm doing. But I thank you for being on my podcast because, hey, having Merkley cooties ain't easy in this town.
No, of course not.
So I would say it's an act of bravery, but that's a little bit of an oversell since only me, you, and your wife are going to be listening to this podcast.
I'm gonna get tarred and feathered by Antifa. We all know it.
That's right. All right, man. Well, that was fun. That's the longest podcast, and you're my first San Francisco guest. So
I appreciate it.
You popped that old cherry.
Respect.
To use a disgusting term. Thanks for listening.